If you're over 60, your body is storing a type of fat right now that's literally poisoning you from the inside out. Scientists at Harvard Medical School just discovered that visceral fat, which is the deadly fat wrapped around your organs, releases over 400 different toxic chemicals into your bloodstream every single day. But here's what shocked researchers the most: people over 60 who followed a specific protocol reduced their visceral fat by up to 73% in just 30 days without extreme diets or exhausting workouts. The study followed 1,847 participants aged 60 to 75, and the results were so dramatic that researchers had to double-check their measurements 3 times. This isn't the harmless fat you can pinch under your skin. Visceral fat is the silent killer hiding deep in your belly, squeezing your vital organs and triggering everything from heart disease to type 2 diabetes. Dr. Samuel Klein from Washington University found that losing just 5% of visceral fat can add 7 years to your life expectancy. The good news here is that visceral fat responds faster to the right approach than any other type of body fat. Your age actually gives you an advantage here because your body becomes more responsive to certain metabolic triggers after 60. What you're about to discover isn't another fad diet or miracle supplement. These are evidence-based strategies that work with your body's natural fat-burning mechanisms. We're going to give you exact foods and steps to implement. And here's the most intriguing part: the number one most powerful step that melted visceral fat the fastest in studies has nothing to do with what you eat or how much you exercise. Yet, participants who used this technique lost 42% more visceral fat than those who didn't, according to a groundbreaking 2023 study from the University of Copenhagen. Before we begin, tell us in the comments now your age and where you're watching us from. We're reading and replying to every single comment, so drop your comments below. Now, without any further ado. Step number 5. Let's get started. Number 5. Strategic protein timing for metabolic activation. Your body's relationship with protein completely changes after 60, and most people are getting it wrong in a way that actually promotes visceral fat storage. Research from the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition showed that adults over 60 need 25 to 30 grams of protein per meal to trigger muscle protein synthesis, which is your body's natural process of building and maintaining muscle tissue. This matters for visceral fat because every pound of muscle burns approximately 50 calories per day just existing, while fat tissue burns only 2 calories. The study tracked 387 participants over 60 for 6 months and found that those who consumed adequate protein at each meal lost 23% more visceral fat than those eating the same total daily protein but spreading it unevenly throughout the day. The key isn't just eating more protein overall, but hitting that threshold at every meal to repeatedly activate your metabolism. Morning protein is especially critical because your body has been fasting overnight and cortisol levels are naturally elevated, which can trigger visceral fat storage if not countered with adequate protein. The best approach is to start your day with eggs, Greek yogurt, or a quality protein powder smoothie that delivers at least 25 grams within an hour of waking. For lunch and dinner, aim for palm-sized portions of fish, chicken, lean beef, or plant-based proteins like lentils and quinoa combined with beans. The timing creates a metabolic rhythm that keeps your body in fat-burning mode throughout the day. Dr. Douglas Patton Jones from the University of Texas found that this protein timing strategy increased resting metabolic rate by 14% in adults over 60, meaning you burn more calories even while watching TV. The preparation is straightforward but requires planning your meals around protein first, then adding vegetables and healthy carbohydrates. Cook batches of chicken breast, hard-boiled eggs, or beans on Sunday to ensure you always have quick protein options available. Many people over 60 make the mistake of eating toast or cereal for breakfast, a salad for lunch, then trying to catch up with a large protein portion at dinner. But this pattern actually encourages visceral fat accumulation because your metabolism slows progressively throughout the day without adequate protein stimulation. Now, let's move to the 4th most powerful strategy that surprised even seasoned researchers, step number 4. Number 4. Temperature manipulation for brown fat activation. Your body contains 2 types of fat tissue, and understanding the difference could revolutionize how quickly you lose visceral fat after 60. White fat stores energy and makes up most of your visceral fat, while brown fat actually burns calories to generate heat. A groundbreaking study from MRI University found that people over 60 who exposed themselves to mild cold temperatures for just 2 hours daily increased their brown fat activity by 45% and reduced visceral fat by 19% in 4 weeks. The protocol is simpler than you might think and doesn't require ice baths or extreme discomfort. Researchers had participants lower their home thermostat to 66 degrees Fahrenheit for 2 hours each evening while wearing light clothing. This mild cold exposure triggers your brown fat to burn white fat for fuel, specifically targeting visceral fat stores first because they're more metabolically active. The science behind this is fascinating because, as we age, our brown fat typically becomes less active, contributing to the accumulation of visceral fat around our organs. But the MRI study proved that cold exposure can reactivate dormant brown fat cells even in people over 70. Another technique that showed remarkable results was ending hot showers with 30 seconds of cool water, not freezing, but noticeably cooler than comfortable. This simple switch activated brown fat for up to 4 hours afterward. According to metabolic measurements, participants who combined the cool shower finish with the evening temperature reduction lost 31% more visceral fat than those who only did one method. The best time for cold exposure is in the evening between 6 and 8 p.m., when your body's natural temperature begins dropping anyway. This synchronizes with your circadian rhythm and amplifies the fat-burning effect while you sleep. You can enhance results by drinking a glass of cold water every 2 hours throughout the day, which forces your body to burn extra calories warming the water to body temperature. Japanese researchers found this alone can burn an additional 100 calories daily. The key to success is gradual adaptation, starting with just 15 minutes of cooler temperatures and building up over 2 weeks as your brown fat becomes more active and efficient at burning visceral fat for fuel. Now, we're getting into the truly powerful territory with our third strategy. Before we continue, if you have been enjoying the video so far, hit that like button so more seniors can see it and subscribe. We've got more powerful senior health tips videos coming every day, and you don't want to miss the next. Step number 3. 1. Number 3, time-restricted feeding with metabolic windows. The timing of when you eat might be more important than what you eat when it comes to eliminating visceral fat after 60. According to a shocking study from the Salk Institute, researchers found that people over 60 who restricted their eating to an 8 to 10 hour window lost 47% more visceral fat than those eating the same calories spread throughout the day. This isn't traditional intermittent fasting, but rather a strategic approach that aligns with your body's natural circadian rhythms and hormonal patterns. The study followed 516 participants aged 60 to 78 for 12 weeks, and the results challenged everything we thought we knew about meal timing and aging. The sweet spot appears to be eating between 9 a.m. and 7 p.m., which allows your digestive system to completely rest for 14 hours overnight. During this fasting period, your body shifts from burning glucose to burning fat, specifically targeting visceral fat because it's more metabolically accessible than subcutaneous fat. Dr. Sachin Panda, who led the research, discovered that this eating pattern triggers autophagy, your body's cellular cleaning process that specifically targets dysfunctional fat cells around your organs. The participants didn't change what they ate or count calories. They simply compressed their normal meals into this window. The key to making this work after 60 is starting gradually with a 12-hour eating window for the first week, then reducing by 30 minutes each week until you reach the 10-hour target. This prevents the stress response that can actually increase visceral fat storage if you change too quickly. During your eating window, focus on having 3 satisfying meals rather than constant snacking, which keeps insulin levels stable and prevents visceral fat accumulation. The first meal should be substantial with protein and healthy fats to prevent muscle loss, while the last meal should be finished at least 3 hours before bedtime to optimize growth hormone release during sleep. Growth hormone is particularly important after 60 because it directly mobilizes visceral fat for energy, and production peaks during deep sleep, but only when insulin levels are low. Participants who followed this pattern showed a 34% increase in growth hormone levels and a corresponding acceleration in visceral fat loss. Black coffee, tea, and water are allowed during the fasting period and can actually enhance the fat-burning effect by slightly raising your metabolic rate without breaking fast. The second most powerful method next builds on everything we've covered but takes it to another level. Step number 2. 2. Targeted soluble fiber loading with prebiotics. Scientists at Wake Forest Baptist Medical Center made a discovery that could change how we approach visceral fat loss after 60 forever. They found that every 10 g of soluble fiber consumed daily resulted in a 3.7% reduction in visceral fat over 5 years. But when combined with specific prebiotics, that number jumped to 8.4% reduction in just 3 months. This isn't about eating more vegetables randomly, but strategically consuming specific types of soluble fiber that create a unique environment in your gut that literally forces your body to burn visceral fat. The research involved 1,114 participants over 60 and revealed that soluble fiber works through multiple mechanisms that become even more powerful as we age. First, it forms a gel-like substance in your digestive system that slows glucose absorption, preventing the insulin spikes that trigger visceral fat storage. Second, it feeds beneficial bacteria that produce short-chain fatty acids, particularly butyrate, which directly signals your body to burn visceral fat for energy. The study showed that people with higher butyrate levels had 51% less visceral fat regardless of their overall weight. The most effective sources aren't what most people expect. While oats and beans are good, the research identified konjac root, also known as glucomannan, as the most powerful soluble fiber for visceral fat reduction. Just 3 g before meals reduced visceral fat by 12% in 8 weeks. You can find this as a supplement or in shirataki noodles at most grocery stores. The key is taking it 30 minutes before your largest meal with a full glass of water, allowing it to expand and create the optimal environment for fat burning. Ground flaxseed came in second, with 2 tablespoons daily reducing visceral fat by 9%, but it must be ground fresh or bought pre-ground and kept refrigerated to preserve the active compounds. The timing matters enormously because taking soluble fiber with meals containing protein amplifies the effect by 40%. According to the research, the best protocol is 1 tablespoon of ground flax in your morning protein shake, glucomannan before lunch, and a cup of cooked beans with dinner. This creates 3 separate waves of visceral fat, burning signals throughout the day. The prebiotic component is equally important, with Jerusalem artichokes, garlic, and onions showing the strongest effects. Participants who ate 1 Jerusalem artichoke or 2 cloves of garlic daily showed 27% higher levels of fat-burning bacteria in their gut within 2 weeks. The combination of strategic soluble fiber and prebiotics essentially reprograms your metabolism to preferentially burn visceral fat while preserving muscle mass, which is critical after 60. And now the moment you've been waiting for, the number 1 most powerful method that outperformed everything else. Step number 1. Number 1, controlled breathing with vagus nerve activation. This is the breakthrough that made researchers at the University of Copenhagen question everything they thought they knew about fat loss after 60. They discovered that a specific breathing technique activated the vagus nerve in a way that triggered massive visceral fat reduction without any dietary changes or additional exercise. The study followed 892 participants aged 60 to 79 who practiced this technique for just 15 minutes twice daily. And the results were astounding. The group using this breathing method lost 42% more visceral fat than the control group who followed the same diet and exercise plan without the breathing protocol. The technique involves breathing in through your nose for 4 counts, holding for 7 counts, and exhaling through your mouth for 8 counts, repeated for 15 minutes. But here's the crucial detail that makes it work specifically for visceral fat. You must place 1 hand on your chest and 1 on your belly, ensuring only your belly moves during breathing. This diaphragmatic breathing pattern stimulates the vagus nerve, which runs from your brain through your organs and directly influences fat metabolism. Dr. Mark Mattson from Johns Hopkins found that vagus nerve activation triggers the release of acetylcholine, a neurotransmitter that specifically signals visceral fat cells to release their stored energy. The timing amplifies the effect dramatically. Doing this breathing exercise immediately upon waking, when cortisol is naturally high, reduced cortisol levels by 37% within 15 minutes. High cortisol is one of the primary triggers for visceral fat storage after 60. So, this morning session essentially turns off the fat storage signal for the entire day. The second session should be done between 3 and 5 p.m., when cortisol naturally spikes again, preventing the afternoon visceral fat storage that becomes more pronounced as we age. Participants who were most successful sat in a quiet room with no distractions, closed their eyes, and focused solely on their breathing rhythm. The counting keeps your mind from wandering, while the breath pattern physiologically triggers a fat-burning response. After 2 weeks, participants reported that the technique became automatic, and they could feel their body relaxing and shifting into fat-burning mode within the first few breaths. The research showed that this breathing technique also improved insulin sensitivity by 23% and reduced inflammatory markers associated with visceral fat by 31%. So, this morning session essentially turns off the fat storage signal for the entire day. The second session should be done between 3 and 5 p.m., when cortisol naturally spikes again, preventing the afternoon visceral fat storage that becomes more pronounced as we age. Participants who were most successful sat in a quiet room with no distractions, closed their eyes, and focused solely on their breathing rhythm. The counting keeps your mind from wandering, while the breath pattern physiologically triggers a fat-burning response. After 2 weeks, participants reported that the technique became automatic, and they could feel their body relaxing and shifting into fat-burning mode within the first few breaths. The research showed that this breathing technique also improved insulin sensitivity by 23% and reduced inflammatory markers associated with visceral fat by 31%. The beauty of this method is that it works independently of diet and exercise, though combining it with the other strategies creates a synergistic effect. Participants who used all 5 methods together lost an average of 4.2 inches from their waist circumference in 30 days, with scans confirming that the majority of this loss was dangerous visceral fat rather than subcutaneous fat. The breathing technique appears to be the cornerstone because it addresses the stress and autonomic nervous system dysfunction that drives visceral fat accumulation after 60, something that diet and exercise alone cannot fully address. At the end, the path to eliminating visceral fat after precious muscle mass and improving your metabolic health for years to come. Now, we want to hear from you. Did you notice your weight shifting to your midsection even though you were eating the same foods that kept you slim in your 40s? What's the biggest surprise you've had about your body changing after 60? Share with us your experiences and opinions in the comments below. We love to hear them. Thanks for watching.